Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are,
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent black people. Please hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button on your way in if you haven't done this yet. And also make sure you subscribe to drboycetv.com or the Black Financial Channel. This is where we do black wealth conversations and all kinds of discussions about economics and the future of our community. I want to talk a little bit about Essence Magazine. You guys know that as we talk about blackness and wealth and wokeness and what it means to be black, they're going to have to be more nuanced conversations about, sort of what the trajectory of the black community is going to be. One of the things I have to concede, I'm going to concede right now, is that as we sort of look at this wokeness and we all sort of decide now is the time that everybody wants to be black and corporations want to give money to black causes and black issues and support black people for the first time in a long time, support black banks, all these other things, you have to really sort of think about what that means and what position you want to take in this, And so right now I kind of see at least a couple of emerging ideologies in this whole process. You've got kind of the Black Lives Matter angle of everything, which is not Black Lives Matter, the concept. We all agree on Black Lives Matter, the concept, but there's a difference between Black Lives Matter, the concept, and Black Lives Matter, the organization. Black Lives Matter, the concept, simply means that you're saying Black Lives Matter. I'm not a person who needs to convince white people that Black Lives Matter. I'm not a person who's going to spend time begging white people to acknowledge that Black Lives Matter. I'm not the person who's going to go and repeatedly tell white people that Black Lives Matter, because white people knowing that Black Lives Matter doesn't matter as much to me as black people knowing that Black Lives Matter. So me explaining to white people that Black Lives Matter is like me explaining to them that 2 + 2 is 4. And I'm not going to sit there and explain to you all day that 2 + 2 is 4. I'm going to just laugh at you because you need to go to math class, right? No disrespect to those who don't know that 2 + 2 is 4. So if you don't know that 2 + 2 is 4, then this is not the conversation for you. You have not met the requirements to even be a part of this discussion. Now, with that said, you got the Black Lives Matter angle and everything, and then you kind of got a more traditionalist, what you might call black nationalist angle, a Malcolm X-ish, Marcus Garvey-ish, Louis Farrakhan-ish kind of way to view blackness. That comes from that, and I'm more in that category in the sense of talking about the development of strong individuals, strong black women. I think it's not an insult to say that black women are strong. I think that they just have to make sure they engage in self-care. I see a lot of people, whiny people, what I consider to be very weak people who say that calling black women strong is an insult, that you should never call a black woman strong. No, I think strength is actually a compliment. I don't want you to call me a weak black man. I want you to call me a strong black man. I'm not the black man who's going to go out and march and rally and say Black Lives Matter, hands up, don't shoot, I can't breathe, and then beg white people to save me, because I know that that's not going to work for me. I don't, maybe it'll work for you, but it won't work for me. So ultimately, I think it's okay to say that black women are strong. I think you can say black women are strong and still say, but at the same time, you want to make sure you engage in self-care to maintain your strength, right? I think it's okay to say that black women are strong, but what they will say is they'll say, don't call black women strong because black women struggle with depression and all kinds of physical ailments that come from carrying the family on their back. And I agree with that 100%. I've seen that a million times, and I want to just say that to black women who carry the load. I don't know if you're in that category, or if you know black women who carry the load for the whole family. Make sure you engage in self-care. So thank you for your service, but don't serve to the point of death. Like, don't serve to the point where you've got nothing left to give. Remember, you are the tree, and in order for the fruit to come from the tree, you must take care of the tree first, right? So put yourself first. Just for the black women out there that do it all for everybody, just make sure you take care of yourself as much as you take care of other people. Love yourself as much as you love your children. Love yourself as much as you love that man. Love yourself as much as you love that family. And at the end of the day, not only will you still be a strong black woman, you will be stronger than you were before because you not only are able to carry the load in a way nobody else does, but you're also taking good care of yourself, which makes a strong tree that gets watered on a regular basis is the strongest tree that there is. So I point out that example of the strong black woman conversation because white liberals are convincing a lot of black people to run around saying that it's an insult to say that black women are strong. No, we need strong people in our community. We need a strong community. A community must have a strong backbone, or it's not going to survive. So going back to my point, you've got kind of the Black Lives Matter angle of things. Black Lives Matter, an LGBT-led organization that focuses on, a lot of policies that the acronym is FAIL. The policies that they tend to want to drip into the black community relate to feminism, abortion, illegal immigration, and LGBT. Now, I'm not saying that any of those issues are wrong. I'm not saying that any of those issues that you have to be on one side or the other. I'm not saying that you can't be a feminist. I'm not saying that you have to be pro-life or pro-choice. I'm not saying that you should or should not support illegal immigration. I'm not saying that you should or should not support whatever's going on in the LGBT community. What I'm saying is that on the nationalist side, basically the ideology is black first. So B1, hashtag B1, that's what we use, the hashtag B1. Hashtag B1, black first, means that you could be a feminist or not a feminist. You could be pro-choice or pro-life. You could be pro or against illegal immigration. You could be pro or choice LGBT issues. But at the end of the day, you have to be black first. Right. So if you know that, that's why, for example, I can roll with a guy like a Cleo Monago or a James Baldwin, because even though these individuals are, they have their sexual orientation, that's not the first thing that they talk about. Right. They are B1. They're black first. Right. And I encourage those of you who really want to make that your number one issue, either for or against, to just kind of know that if somebody comes in and they say, look, I'm black first. I happen to be gay, but I'm black first. I happen to be, I happen to think it's okay to get an abortion, but I'm black first. I think there should be space for that, right? I think that when you allow those issues, and also you throw in religion as well, to divide you, I think that we're not going to win as a community in that way. So the B1 ideology says you're black first. It also says that you believe in strong individuals, which build strong families, which build strong communities. You also believe in a degree of sovereignty. Sovereignty means freedom, control. That means that as black people, we control the politics in our community. We control the economics in our community. We control the education in our community. We control the police force in our community, right? And so that is what I am laying out there for you in terms of understanding clearly the distinction between myself and a Black Lives Matter organizational ideology. It's nothing against Black Lives Matter. I agree that Black Lives Matter. But at the end of the day, I'm the guy who also says Black Lives Matter, whether the black life is lost due to a cop. Black Lives Matter, whether the black life was lost due to a Klansman. Black Lives Matter, whether the black life was lost due to a gangbanger in the hood who decides he wants to go shoot up little babies, right? In Chicago, and the reason that's important is because in Chicago, 100 people got shot in one weekend. Over 100 people got shot in one weekend, and nobody paid attention because everybody has been given a hush mandate from white liberals to not talk about black on black crime. You're given a hush mandate to make you act like that that any homicides in the black community are not real. And I heard people say, well, the vast majority of white people who get killed, they get killed by other white people. So white on white crime is just as bad as black on black crime. And I'm not comparing us to white people on any level, but I will say this. When I knew that over 100 people got shot in Chicago that one weekend, I knew, just like you knew, that most of those people were probably black. I know people that work in the coroner's office who cut open dead bodies, and one of them told me, she said 95% of my homicide victims in Chicago are young black and brown males, right? So it does not mean that that you are a sellout to acknowledge the whatever's going on with the guns in our community, but if they get you to the point where they got you blind, deaf, and dumb and putting on your blinders to where 100 people can be shot and you feel that somehow you're selling out your cause by talking about that, then you don't believe Black Lives Matter. How can Black Lives Matter if 100 black people get shot and you don't give a shit because white people told you that you can only talk about the black guy who was killed by a cop? That don't make no damn sense. That's the reason that you have to be careful about politics, is because politics will strip you and rip you of all your common sense. You'll be running around here looking like boo-boo the damn fool, and then wondering why your community's still going backward when you think that you're marching forward. So let me talk about this one last quick point. Let's talk about Essence Magazine. Essence Magazine to me is an embodiment of exactly what I'm talking about. So I go to Essence Magazine. I see this article by a guy. I can't remember his name. I think he also writes for The Root. I remember seeing his name in The Root. The Root is driven by that Black Lives Matter LGBT-led organization that wants gay first. They want that the LGBT issue to be the top issue, not blackness. They want LGBT to be the number one issue. And so he writes an article basically saying Bill Cosby can never restore his legacy. Bill Cosby is garbage. Bill Cosby should be thrown in the trash. Bill Cosby ain't shit. Now, we know that Cosby ain't a perfect guy, right? Anybody can be critical. Bill Clinton is not a perfect guy, right? There's a lot of people. Billy Porter, I bet if you look in Billy Porter's background, you'll find some stuff that he probably wouldn't want the public talking about either. But here's the idea. Here's the point I'm making on this. When you're talking about Cosby, I know people that can have a more nuanced perspective on Cosby. They can say, you know what, it looks like this man might have done some things he shouldn't have done. But at the same time, they will say, but there's no evidence. And when he was convicted, it was an unfair conviction. And he should not be forced to die in prison because he was accused of touching a white woman's titty. That he's literally going to expect to die in prison. When they send you to prison at 82 years old, they expect you to die. So you're expected to die in prison because a white woman said you touched her titty. If that ain't some old Black Wall Street, old school lynching, I don't know what is. Like, if that's not some old Emmett Till, Emmett Till type stuff, some old I Do Declare, Gone with the Wind, white woman accuses you, you're done type stuff. I don't know what is. So a white woman said, Cosby touched my titty. So a titty touch apparently is worth going to prison for life. I can't think of anything, any part of my body that a woman could touch or anybody could touch where I could get them sent to die in prison because they touched that part of my body. You can touch my butt, my penis, my chest, whatever. There's nothing that you could touch on my body where people would think it makes any sense to send somebody to prison to die, right? Just make that 100% abundantly clear. And so with that said, with Cosby, I thought it was fascinating that the Essence Magazine, agrees to this article that completely throws Cosby's whole legacy under the bus. It doesn't say, we can't co-sign on everything Cosby's done, but let's talk about a few of the good things that he did do. Let's talk about some things that he and his wife did that make them assets to the community, right? Let's talk about the fact that they gave more money to HBCUs than any of these black celebrity billionaires out here that claim to love black people but haven't done a fraction of what Cosby and Camille did. Let's talk about what they did with the Cosby Show, using that massive platform to encourage black children to educate themselves. Let's talk about the fact that in his own warped, weird little way, that Cosby really pushed the black community to do better. He encouraged us to be strong. He encouraged us to be educated. He encouraged us to take care of our families. He encouraged us to do our best to be better people. Was he always holding that standard in his personal life? Probably not. But I bet you that most of these critical people, if you dig into their personal lives, you're going to find a whole lot of interesting stuff too. For example, Dream Hampton, the lady who made the R. Kelly documentary and went into what R. Kelly allegedly did, which I'm no fan of R. Kelly and no agreement in what he did. I only knew about Dream Hampton because I'd heard so many crazy stories about her. I'll just say that. So my point is that ain't none of these people perfect. Ain't none of these people got a perfectly clean record. A lot of times, a lot of politics is driven by sort of pointing at a spotlight at somebody else's flaws, but a lot of these people live in a glass house. I would just say that. Now, with that being said, I think that Essence Magazine was sending you a message. Essence Magazine was sending you a message about where they stand politically when they simultaneously, now pay attention, they undermined Bill Cosby, America's dad, a masculine black man who took care of his family and talked about black people educating ourselves, elevating ourselves, building economically, etc. They undermined Cosby, chop him off at the knees, cut off his penis in public, and simultaneously celebrate on the cover of Billy Porter. Billy Porter was wearing this really flamboyant red, black, and green dress, and they show Billy Porter looking like America's Next Top Model. They, Billy Porter being as flamboyant as he is in the big dresses, and they do that at the same time. So Essence Magazine, unfortunately, has positioned itself as the slave master. Essence Magazine has positioned itself as a replication of exactly what used to happen on plantations 200 years ago. Essence Magazine is positioning itself as a slave master overseer Because if you go back to the plantation, and Dr. Claude Anderson talks about this on Powernomics Thursdays on drboystv.com, if you go back to the plantation, the number one goal was to ensure that black men were not masculine. The goal was to ensure that any masculine black male was deflated, destroyed, undermined, castrated, burned alive, screwed in the butt, whatever, in order to break him down. And you did it publicly so that masculine black males would understand that if you are masculine, we will punish you. If you are masculine, we will label you as being filled with toxic masculinity. I get that label all the time, and I'll wear that shit proudly. Call me a toxic black man. I don't give a shit. I got a black woman upstairs with a nice shapely booty, who has the brain of a triple scientist, who loves me like no other, who can cook her ass off in the kitchen, who knows that I'm the man and knows that she's the woman and knows that there is power in both positions. I take that proudly. I wear that proudly. I've been bashed and attacked by the root. I've had the root do everything they could to try to undermine and destroy me as a black man, and that is a badge of honor. That is an absolute badge of honor, because I know what you're doing. What you're doing is you're doing the exact same thing that white folks did to us on the plantation 200 years ago, but you're just a Klansman in blackface. You are representing the plantation owner as the overseer who says, Massa, you ain't got to go beat the slave. I'm going to go beat the slave for you. I'm going to do it for you. Massa, let me hose the whip, Massa. Because when you hose the whip and you beat the slaves for Massa, Massa going to reward you with extra butter biscuits. Massa going to make sure that you get took care of, right? So a lot of these organizations are pretty much doing the bidding of white liberals and white people that basically don't really have that interest or the time or the credibility to come into the black community and cut your man's testicles off in public. They don't have that ability. So basically, when you simultaneously, same time now, it's not a coincidence, simultaneously do everything you can to undeniably and irrevocably completely destroy the legacy of Bill Cosby, and yet you take the fruitiest man on the planet, the most flamboyant man that you can find, Billy Porter. It ain't about him being LGBT now. Let's make that 100% clear. I don't care what people do in the bedroom, but you deliberately identify him because he's wearing a dress, and you celebrate and elevate him as a new black leader, as a national treasure. I think Essence referred to him as a national treasure. You're doing exactly what Massa used to do 200 years ago. Massa would take the big strong buck, who was the biggest threat, the big strong black man, and he would tear him down, try to kill him, beat him to death, burn him alive, lynch him, cut his balls off, screw him in the butt in front of his sons, and then they would take the sweet little fruity guy, or the most feminine one, the feminine slaves, or the childlike slaves, or the beta male slaves, and those will be the ones who get elevated. They get to go work in the big house. They're the ones who get to be around Massa because they are absolutely, positively, completely, 100% not a threat at all to your existing power structure. So white supremacy always had a code. That's my point. You know, I talked to Marcus Small, and he's doing a sequel on that film, The Melanin Code. And Dr. Claude Anderson always talks about communities having a code. And codes are extremely important because codes are what holds systems and organizations together. So ultimately for black people, part of the reason you struggle is because you really don't have a code. But white supremacy always had a code, because in order to keep people in a cage, you must make sure that it is a properly structured cage. You must make sure it has a strong foundation. You design the cage in an appropriate way to control the behavior of other people. So when they're seeking to control your behavior, outlets like In Essence Magazine or The Root are part of their process of staying on code. And so at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying. That's what I believe. Do I have an issue? Again, I want to make this 100% clear. Do I have an issue with the fact that Billy Porter happens to like men? No, I don't care about that. But what I do care about is the fact that you will go out of your way to undermine masculinity and really, truly celebrate femininity, because what you're effectively doing is you're sending a signal. Again, white people have done this for hundreds of years. That's where they learned this from. This is nothing but white supremacy and blackface. You don't identify because they're putting on a black face and you think that they're like you, but a lot of these folks ain't like you. And so if you go back in time, You can find numerous examples of this. And what happens is that when you celebrate one type of behavior and you reward and incentivize this behavior over here and you punish this behavior over here, what you're doing when you're keeping things on code, when you're controlling your animals, is you're teaching your animals how to behave. That's how you control. If you go back in psychology and look at how they managed and controlled Pavlov's dog, how they control rats in a lab, what you do is you incentivize, you reward the behavior that you want to see replicated, and you punish the behavior that you want to see come to an end. So there's it's not a coincidence that Cosby and everything he represents, everything he ever did good in his life, everything he could have ever added to the world is completely demolished. At the same time, they're celebrating the black man who's wearing the big dress. That's what I'm saying. That's my belief. I'm sticking to it. I'm very disappointed in essence, but I'd really like to know more about their ownership structure, who's running this company, and what their political ideology is. And I will just say that, that we need a little more balance in the community, right? So if you want to know why I'm getting on a plane right now to go down to Atlanta to support the creation of the Black Rights Party with Jay Morrison, it's because I want to see a space where we can be black first and where all these other issues can be pushed to the side and where we can get back to the very basics. Strong people, strong families, strong community, sovereignty, educate our own children, create our own jobs, support our own businesses, police our own communities. That is called sovereignty. That's what I believe. So I'm going to go, guys. I didn't get a chance to answer a lot of your questions. I see you guys on Instagram. My Instagram's The Real Boyce Watkins, by the way, if you want to follow. I thank you for your questions. I'm sorry I can't answer them. I got to go get ready. Alicia's calling me now because we're about to get on this flight. But have a good day. Hit the thumbs up button, share, and subscribe button. And if you want to know more about investing and all that stuff, feel free to go, which we start our masterclass July 8th. You can go to drboycemasterclass.com. We're going to talk all about stock options and how to use stock options to add that to your portfolio, because you guys know that I believe strongly that a big key, the most important key actually, to us strengthening ourselves as communities and families is to understand wealth. Because when you have money, you have power. When you have money, you have control. At the very least, you have control over your life, right? You don't not necessarily have to control other people, but you don't want other people controlling you. The number one reason they control you, how they control Essence Magazine, is through money. There's some white guy or somebody behind the scenes pulling the economic strings. And basically, you've got Pinocchio walking around thinking he's a real boy. And at the end of the day, a lot of your organizations in the black community are zombie organizations. They are absolutely positively not independent sovereign entities. They are somebody's pulling the purse strings. So just keep that in mind. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a good day. I'll see you soon. Thank you for listening. Talk to you later. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.